What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Heat Ship podcast. Took a week off because of the Pro Bowl, but now the final week of the NFL season has arrived, and man, it has flown by so fast. I mean, it feels like it was just last month we were talking about kickoff and talking about what we think the top 10 guys are going to be for each position before the season. But the Super Bowl has come, and there's a lot to talk about it. We're going to go into how we think the game's going to go out in every aspect of the game, but of course, it's the offseason for every other team except for the Chiefs and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So now there's tons of stuff to talk about. And it happened last week, and good thing we didn't make an episode beforehand because we would have missed out on a pretty big trade. Rams trading away Jared Goff, 2 firsts, and I believe a future third. All of that just for Matt Stafford. I think the Lions won this trade because Jared Goff, he's an average QB, but he's not a bad QB, and I feel like he'll be able to be there, be a serviceable QB for them. They got good first-round draft picks. You can say about where the placement is, but first round is the first round. Elite talent goes from 1 to 32 pretty much guaranteed every single year. That's the type of potential a first rounder has. And then the third in there could also have some good potential. So I want to hear your take on this. Who do you think wins this trade? Do you think it's going to be the Rams contending for a title or Detroit truly successfully building on a future?
Really, it could go both ways because this is what the Rams needed right now. Because, I mean, if they want to stay on top of this division with the Niners being healthy again and all the competition in this division that they're going to have to deal with, they needed a QB. They had good receivers. They have a good running back. They have a great defense. I mean, all they needed was just that missing piece. And Matthew Stafford may be it. I'm not one to think that he's too much better than Jared Goff. I think they're very similar players. But, I mean, it's just I think they gave up a little bit too much. The Lions definitely needed this to happen for their future. They get 2 draft picks, great draft picks, or 3 draft picks. So both teams won in their own ways. The Rams are going to have to come out with some sort of big season with Stafford if they hope to win this trade, like you said.
Well, not only that, I feel like Stafford has never really truly had a good offensive line, and I feel like the Rams' offensive line does hold their ground against a lot of good defenses out there. And Stafford has never really been built around teams with great weapons as of late. And even when he does, it seems like he gets knocked out by injuries or whatsoever. But now on the other side of the ball, he's got a competent defense to help back up his whole team. So I feel like Stafford is obviously a better quarterback than Jared Goff. And hell, Stafford could be playing like a top 10 QB next year with the amount of talent that team has on both sides of the ball. I feel like that team's going to be very successful. Super Bowl run, I'm not sure. It really does depend on how the offseason goes because this is going to be a very big offseason. But Detroit, I do want to also bring this up. Do you think Detroit will stay with Goff and just not draft a QB? Or do you think, with how stacked this QB class is, draft a guy like Fields if they fall to him, or take a gamble and draft Lance with that high overall pick?
I mean, I think if you went out there and you took Jared Goff's contract, I think you gotta roll with him. I don't know. I was thinking about this for other teams like the Patriots and stuff like that. The Lions with those high picks, they might let a quarterback fall to one of those teams like the Patriots or something like that, if they decide to go with Goff. But I mean, it's all up to them really because Goff. I mean, we've seen talent from him, but he's not. He's just not. I don't think he's a championship ready quarterback. He's got to be developed a lot more, and he can't really be developed that more at this stage in his career.
Yeah, and but it's going to be very interesting because if Detroit does draft a QB, you're going to have Philadelphia 2.0. You're going to have a very high paid QB, one of the highest, and you're going to be trying to develop a QB. And we know that definitely didn't work for Philadelphia, and that's how head coaches get fired very easily. And I feel like Detroit should just stay with Goff, draft a guy if he falls to them, and they have a high enough pick to where it's not really a fall, it'll just where he's being placed. I really like Jalen Waddle as a good pickup, and if the Eagles don't pick Devonta Smith, because I feel like the Dolphins are going to go with Jamar Chase here, or they could prove me wrong, vice versa, if one of those top 2 guys ends up falling to Detroit, Jared Goff goes from having a really good wide receiver core, if Detroit can have a good enough offseason and retain Kenny Golladay, if Jared Goff is enough to bring him back, he goes from one good offense to potentially another good offense because they've got a very young offensive weapons over there. But moving on from Detroit, we got the Colts. They want Wentz. Developing reports have come out saying from Adam Schefter that Wentz wants out. He is not happy with the situation over there. He came in thinking that this new head coach from the Indianapolis Colts, their offensive coordinator, I believe, was going to commit to Wentz being their number one QB. But I don't know why he thinks that, even though he played like a number 4 QB, but he has not. He has not committed to Wentz or Hurts, but more specifically to Wentz. He has not committed to him. And so now he's not happy over there. He wants out. The Eagles are asking for no less than a first, which is a huge, huge overprice for Wentz. But Colts are on the top of the list. They're also pursuing Zach Ertz. I mean, I've been saying this for a little bit. I think the Colts are the guys who are going to eventually get Wentz. Do you still think the Colts will go after Deshaun, or do you think with guys like the Panthers or now with the Raiders, apparently Derek Carr is being shopped, Panthers, Raiders, guys out there, I feel like are better contenders for Deshaun? Or do you think Colts should still full on go for Deshaun and not worry about wins here?
Like I've been saying, every team that needs Deshaun should be going for Deshaun. But if you can get Wentz for cheap, I mean, I think Wentz can be your guy in Indianapolis with that coach. I think they might succeed with him, maybe even more than did with Rivers. But if he can get it together over there, they got a really good young offense, and I mean, they can succeed for a few years and maybe even become championship contenders, especially if they get Watson. But with Wentz, I think if you can get him for cheap and you don't have to pay a bunch for Watson, I think you just roll with Wentz right here, and I think he can be serviceable for that team, especially.
And I do think Wentz will be better for Indianapolis just because of the fact that he won't have pressure. You know, when you look at some of his worst years, the year after they won the Super Bowl, he was being pressured by a backup who just won the Super Bowl MVP, being pressured by a backup who could take a spot. Next year, he leads the team to the playoffs, but didn't have that great of a year. The whole team didn't have that great of a year. And then you look at this year. You're just playing bad. Your offensive line is just in shambles. Your wide receiver core is in shambles. And now you got a coach that just doesn't like you anymore, doesn't think you fit his scheme, brings in Jalen Hurts. He has pressure. He has injuries going against him. That's not what the Colts will bring to Wentz. And I feel like, especially with that O-line, I feel like Wentz will play so much better on the Colts. It might actually return to that top 10 tier. I don't think he will. I think he set himself back so far, but it will be interesting to see how that goes. And speaking about Las Vegas, with Derek Carr also becomes Richard Sherman. There's been a lot of buzz between Sherman, one of the top corners going into free agency, potentially heading over there to Las Vegas. There's been some buzz, of course. There's always buzz with every guy that's in the free agency class, but there's some buzz with the Cowboys showing a lot of interest in Sherman, but I'm not all too buying into that. But Richard Sherman going to one of the worst backfields pretty much when it comes to the other side of the ball in Las Vegas. They had one of the worst defenses last year. Do you think Sherman is a little bit too past to save any team's pass defense, or do you think Sherman would be a great hire for Las Vegas?
Sherman's just not the same anymore. I mean, he's a really serviceable, cover 3 corner like he's always been. He can get his job done, but he's not going to make huge plays like he used to be able to. He's not going to save a defense like the Raiders. That's just not really possible for one player like that of his ability. But it's Sherman. He will help you out. He's probably better than any of your corners right now, honestly. But just like I said, he's not one of those guys that can just sit there and lock up a man the entire game. But I mean, he can still make plays for you.
Yeah, his physicality has gone down, but I still feel like having that veteran, especially the type of character that Sherman is, that's good for any developing cornerback. And that's the only thing that I wouldn't be against. If the Cowboys truly draft corner like all these boards are predicting us to, which I'm not going to listen to the boards until it happens the night of. But if we do actually get a guy like Farley or Surtain, bringing in a mentor like Sherman or just for any other young cornerback in the league, it's golden because he brings character, he brings the knowledge. He just doesn't have the strength or the athleticism anymore like he used to. But the Falcons are taking a chance here. They're running it back with Matt Ryan, and more specifically, Julio Jones. They're not going to shop him at all. I didn't think they were going to, but they're going back on what they pretty much set their team going to. They said this months and months ago that they planned on moving on from Matt Ryan and looking towards the future. And now you kind of wonder if they're bringing back Matt Ryan, do they still want to draft a quarterback and just have him be on the bench for 1 year? Which I never really like that for quarterbacks. I never really like having a guy, you invest all this time into him, a very, very high draft pick after a horrible year, just to sit him on the bench. when you could have drafted a guy like Caleb Farley, like Patrick Surtain, who could help out your horrendous secondary and just try to develop a QB in the future when it comes to future drafts or trade up? Because I'm sure Matt Ryan could get you some sort of value, but I don't know. What do you think the Falcons should do? Do you think this move here to run it back with Matt Ryan probably one more time and just probably set a QB on the bench? Because I don't see them passing up on all the talent at QB that they have this year in the draft. Or do you think it would be much better for them to just bring in a guy like Fields, have him just flourish in that offense?
I think they do have to draft a quarterback because they got to start looking for the future. Because right now, I mean, they're not going to beat the Panthers. They're not going to beat the Bucs. They're not. I mean, they could finish on top of the Saints next year, like I said. But it's just not their time right now. So they got to start looking for the future and looking for an opportunity to develop someone that can bring them success in the future.
And if you thought Deshaun was a blockbuster trade, then J.J. Watt, another guy on the Texans, has really been – there's a lot of talk going about him being on the move. He's been unhappy with the organization. Just the overall morale of that entire organization has not been sitting well with him for the entire season. He doesn't like how things are going on around there. He wants to win. He's got the talent, and he deserves to win. He's won the awards. Now he just needs to get him that ring to really, just cement him into greatness. But – J.J. Watt is the type of guy that any team can take on. But if I'm being completely honest, when it comes to guys, I would see J.J. Watt really joining here. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to a team like the Falcons. The Falcons, they don't really have that dominant edge rusher. They got a great guy interior with Grady Jarrett. They had Takk McKinley, which had been serviceable, but he's no longer with the team. Falcons are one of the best fits. Not only that, but you're talking about a team that really needs to beef up their D-line. I mean, honestly, I can't really think of anything besides my Cowboys. You look at all the other teams in the conference. They have good defensive line. Eagles, Washington, and Giants all have good defensive lines. We got Aldon Smith, who did good for like the first 4 games, and then DeMarcus Cousins. There's so many places J.J. Watt can go. He can go everywhere. Who do you think, when it comes to defensively, who do you think would flourish the best when it comes to J.J. Watt?
I really like what you said about the Falcons, and the Patriots really do need help on their ends. I mean, they have Chase Winovich, but I don't see them going out and get someone like J.J. Watt. It's just not it's not the type of thing that Belichick does. But the Falcons, that would work out pretty well, as well as the Cowboys. I mean, continue to beef up that D-line. I mean, both of those teams seem pretty well.
I mean, not only that, but I started thinking, back to the Raiders. The Raiders did not have a good D-line, in my opinion. And Clelin Ferrell, I don't know if they would go out and move either Crosby or Ferrell into the interior or just have them line up as a linebacker. But J.J. Watt would do wonders for that team. They would do amazing things for that team because he would just straight up change the game for their run game. But all that out the way, let's get straight into the Super Bowl. A huge matchup here. We're going to go through who we think is going to be the better passers, the better rushers, who's going to get more INTs, if there is any, sacks, the score, and our MVP. Get everything out the way, starting off with the passing game. Who do you think is going to be the king of the air?
I think the Chiefs are going to have the most air yards. That's my opinion. I'm not going to say who my winner is yet, but I think the Chiefs are going to dominate in the air. I'm not going to say dominate, but I think they're going to have the more passing yards with that high-powered offense.
Yeah, and I think so too. I looked back at the playoff games that the Chiefs have played so far, and the Bucs, and Brady's throwing titles. I mean, some of them have been good, but last game it wasn't the greatest. But every single time Mahomes has came out, and he's thrown for like pretty much 300 plus yards every single game, which is what the Chiefs do. I'm going to go a little bit further, take an extra step. I think Kelce will have the most receiving yards out of anybody in that stadium. He gets peppered with targets, and it seems like every single time Kelce manages to break out some 30 or 40-yard reception just because it's impossible to tackle that man. So I am going to go with the Chiefs here, just like you. On the ground, though, I feel like we'll agree on this too, but I got Uncle Lenny leading the Bucs to having the better rushing attack here. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is back, and I think he'll be fully healthy. But the Bucs have a better offensive line. I mean, they've had a shockingly very underrated offensive line this entire year. And I feel like they will have and continue to be one of the better rushing teams in these playoffs with Leonard Fournette and Rojo leading the way. And hell, if anything, I feel like just like it did with Green Bay, this rushing game could bring them the win here at the Super Bowl.
Yeah, Fournette has been on fire. The Bucks run offense has just been on fire. They've been coming out and running more than I've seen them all season here in the playoffs. And I think that's what's been winning them these games is coming out strong on the ground and then baiting them into some play action. Fournette has been had two great games in a row. So I think that they're going to lead on the ground. I think they're going to dominate on the ground because the Buccaneers' run defense is great. So the Chiefs are going to have to find out another way to beat them other than running the ball.
Yeah, and the next thing I wanted to bring up, just covered everything on offensively. Let's look at the defensive side of the ball. I have been watching every single game that Brady has been through. I haven't, slacked off. I've watched every single Bucs game, and his decision making, especially from the conference championship, scares me. He had 3 interceptions, equaled it up with 3 touchdowns, but still 3 interceptions here compared to in the conference championship, Mahomes had 0. So when it comes to interceptions here, I do feel like the Chiefs will have an edge. I feel like there will only be 1 interception thrown, and I feel like it will be from Brady. I got a feeling Brady won't make too many mistakes like he did against Green Bay because Green Bay had Jair Alexander. The Chiefs, they have Tyrann Mathieu, and that's it. That's the only guy I know from their secondary. But I do feel like the Chiefs will manage to pull out a stop here and get themselves an interception because, Brady has thrown quite a few picks, but he does answer back on offense.
I think it's going to be one interception per side. I think Mahomes will throw one too. He's going to make some mistakes, man. Brady's been here a lot. I think he's still going to throw a pick, though. Both teams are going to be the defenses are just great on both teams, and so are the offenses. This is why these teams are in the playoffs because they both have great defense and they both have great offense. But I think both sides are going to end up with a pick and maybe even more types of turnovers that I'll get into later.
But this one is no question for me. Sacks, I'm obviously going to give it to the Bucs. Their pass rush is incredible. Shaquille Barrett, Levante David, JPP, Vita Vea is back. Devin White, if he manages to blitz and just get through it with that speed of his. They've got an incredible defensive line. And there's a guy named Ndamukong Suh. Now, last time Suh was in the Super Bowl, it was a 13-3 win from the Patriots against the Rams. But it was a great defensive matchup either way in that entire Super Bowl. And I don't feel like it will be like that because I do feel like the offense are too good. But this pass rush from the Bucs is crazy. It is crazy. I feel like they are going to wrap up, I want to say 3 or 4 sacks here. I do feel like they are going to get there because the Chiefs are missing 3 starting offensive linemen, and the Bucs just apply that pressure every single game like no other team out there.
If the Bucs are gonna if they're gonna win this game, they're gonna need a big show out of their defensive line. They're gonna need to pressure Mahomes. You can't give that guy time, or he will make a play with those weapons he has. You gotta get in there. You gotta blitz heavy. I think if they're gonna win this game, you gotta send 4 or 5 at him every single play and get to the quarterback. And you gotta, like you said, you gotta have 3 or 4 sacks if you want to beat Mahomes, maybe even more.
Yeah, and then let's round it off with the score and the MVP. I want you to go off. I want you to start off. I want to hear who you got if you're going to stick with your Bucs.
Yeah, I predicted this Super Bowl from the beginning, as you guys know, before the season even started. And I said the Bucs and Chiefs would go, and I said the Bucs would win 41-37. And I'm sticking with the exact same prediction, exact same score, 41-37 Buccaneers. I think it's going to be 34-37. Chiefs will be on top, looking good on defense, and they'll have the ball. And my MVP, Shaquille Barrett, will cause a forced fumble on Mahomes to give the Buccaneers the ball and win the game. I'm giving the MVP to Shaquille Barrett. I think he's going to have 2.5 sacks and a forced fumble, a Von Miller type of Super Bowl where the defensive lineman gets it and changes the game and wins the game for the Buccaneers.
This isn't going to be that high scoring of a game for me because I do feel like the Bucs have the better talent, but the Chiefs scheme very well, and Tyrann Mathieu carries that defense like no other safety that I see in this league. For me now, it's no question Tyrann Mathieu is the best safety in the league. I can't believe I didn't rank him higher when we did our top 10 list, but he's better than Minka. He's definitely better than Blitzboy. Tyrann is the best strong and free safety. No matter where you put him, he's the best back there. He's just been unstoppable for offenses out there. And with how well the Chiefs have schemed for good offenses back there, I feel like I like the Bills offense better than the Bucs offense. This is going to be a hard game though. 34-28. I am going to give this to the Chiefs. I said from the beginning I had the Chiefs going. I very last minute I said I felt like the Bucs were going to go over the Packers, but of course I wasn't confident in them throughout the entire season, and I don't know what it is about it. I'm going to stick with the guys that I'm confident with, and it's the obvious choice for a lot of people. It's the favorite choice, but it's the good choice. 34-28. Mahomes obviously getting the MVP. I think he throws for about 360 yards. I feel like he's going to have some sort of good rush here, probably like a 15-yard rushing touchdown here. I feel like he'll be responsible for 2 passing, 1 on the ground, 360 in the air to give him the MVP. But I really wouldn't be surprised to see Tyrann Mathieu, or hell, maybe Tyreek Hill. Last time the Bucs and the Chiefs played, we know how that went. We know the type of game that Tyreek Hill had against the Bucs last time. So he is a big name to watch here, but I do feel like the Bucs will be stupid to ever let anything like that happen, because Carlton Davis has been a good corner this year, but against Tyreek Hill, he was made to look like he was a midget because he was just getting burnt, ran over. He was just getting demolished in one quarter earlier on this season. But that's all we got for the Super Bowl. We'll know the tale of the story afterwards, but I mean, that's all we can say for now. I really hope this is going to be a big game. I really want to have a great time watching football one last time before the long wait between here and the regular season comes around. But the draft seems to be entertaining. The offseason will be entertaining, no doubt, with all the Deshaun news and everything. So there's still plenty to look forward to, plenty for us to talk about. But everything's riding on the Super Bowl. Everything next week's going to be riding on the Super Bowl. So we'll see you all then. Make sure you guys have a good Super Bowl Sunday. Enjoy watching the game with your friends, family, whatsoever. Make sure y'all have a good time. And we'll see who's wrong. We'll see who's right. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you are subscribed. Hit that like button. Click the notification bell if you are not already notified of every single upload. What are you doing? You're missing out. And see you next week. Peace.